Those who squint their eyes and search have obscure vision. I think that quote, which kind of originated from preoccupied with the single leaf, you'll miss the tree. Preoccupied with the single tree, you'll miss the forest. It just goes to show that, you know, the more we focus on one thing that's not necessarily tailored to our path, the more we lose everything around it. And that's not to say we shouldn't have focus. That's not to say we shouldn't be intent on our goals and whatnot. But looking for direct solutions to, you know, things that will come regardless of, you know, our thought about it, doesn't do anything for us. It's like suffering before you need to. He who suffers before it's necessary suffers more than necessary. Like, the more we look for parts of ourselves that we may not, you know, regularly see on a daily basis, or parts in others, or things in others, or positivity or negativity and whatnot, we start to lose everything around it. And I realize that a lot of people, you know, look at life as some sort of a negative thing, and they're, you know, constantly looking for things to critique and complain, and, you know, the negative aspects of life that we all endure. And I realize that the more people focus on that, the more that's all they see, the more that's, you know, their reality. And, you know, I believe that each of us is living in our own personal heaven or hell. You know, it's truly like a matter of how we choose to perceive the world, or how, you know, certain events in our life or whatnot have led us to becoming that perspective. In saying that those who squint their eyes and search have obscure vision, it's both literal and sort of metaphorical. Like, when you're squinting your eyes, you're losing a lot, and you're focused on one thing, but you're losing a lot of the stuff around you. Those who squint their eyes and search are somewhat, you know, people with half-witted purpose, per se. People that, you know, try to use overthought to their benefit, almost to a fault. Because, you know, thought can only get us so far. The mind is not who we are. We're the thing observing the thought. And the more we think, the more we're trying to think through our problems, the less we're in the present moment, the more stuff we lose. And I realize that, you know, all we really have is the present moment. No amount of thought, blah, 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 instantiation of your own anxiety is present in the present moment. It's when you allow your mind to be what you are right now. It's when you allow your focus to shift from what's in front of you to what's inside your head that we truly become lost. And, you know, it's one thing to be lost in that kind of thought and idealism, and I feel like it's an easy thing to escape with the, you know, proper techniques and tools, of course. But for those who can't, you know, it's like he who thinks the journey is over is the one that's truly lost. And I think a lot of people get in that state where they're in their head about something, and they're like, oh, well, this is the reality I have to deal with. Rather than, you know, grounding themselves once again in the present moment and taking it step by step. Because a lot of things in life aren't necessarily worth our anxiety. They aren't worth anything that, you know, we may gruel over or, you know, take the time out of our day for. I think a lot of the things people stress over most is like interactions and how the future will unfold. And with interaction, you know, it's going to be how it is regardless. You know, I don't think any amount of overthought is going to do anything except for, you know, somewhat program your mind and instantiate that you should be anxious about these certain things and whatnot, you know, almost like putting everything else but yourself to a high regard and treating it as if it's on some type of pedestal. And in doing that, we're losing, you know, a lot of our self-worth because we're choosing to value something more than we value our own self. And I think that everybody should view themselves as something they're worth. They're highly valued, I say. Because, you know, to highly value yourself is in part to highly value others. The more respect you have for yourself, the more you'll be able to treat others in a way that's befitting of them and befitting of your own, you know, space and time. Too often I feel like people get lost and start to try to look for their value from external things that don't necessarily matter. When in reality, you know, the value you have for yourself, the value you place on yourself is self-given. Nobody can put an inherent value on you, and you know, if they try, who cares? So, you know, when you put that on yourself, when you take the time to, you know, connotate yourself, I feel, you know, you have nothing to lose, and it's always right. You know, I feel like a lot of times people think they can be wrong about themselves, or, you know, I mean, there's one thing if people are being like openly delusional and openly, you know, aloof to their own character flaws, but in terms of things that people can't necessarily see, because 99% of who we are is an internal thing. In terms of the stuff that we can't see, I feel like the only true connotation, the only true opinion that would matter in that situation is the opinion you have. The opinions of others in this case don't necessarily mean anything, and the more we focus on the opinions of others and neglect ourselves, the worse off we'll be. So once again, you know, it's those who squint their eyes and search that have obscure vision.